Nigeria is one of the most religious nations in the world, with churches and mosques playing a central role in society. However, the unchecked growth of religious institutions has led to serious concerns: financial exploitation, extremist teachings, and even violence. Many Nigerians are now asking, should the government step in to regulate churches and mosques? The call for regulation stems from three major issues. First, financial fraud has become rampant, with some pastors and imams exploiting followers through fake miracles, forced donations, and unchecked wealth accumulation. Second, extremist preaching in some mosques and churches has fueled violence, division, and even terrorism. Third, the uncontrolled proliferation of worship centers, many operating without safety standards or proper registration, has led to tragedies, including building collapses and cult-like activities. A potential model for Nigeria is Rwanda, where President Paul Kagame implemented strict regulations on religious institutions after the 1994 genocide. Rwanda's system requires all churches and mosques to be registered, mandates sermon reviews to prevent hate speech, and enforces financial transparency. The result? A more orderly and accountable religious sector. But can Nigeria replicate this success? The biggest obstacle is political resistance, particularly from northern elites. In northern Nigeria, religion and politics are deeply intertwined. Some politicians rely on uneducated, devout Muslim populations to maintain power, using religious leaders to sway public opinion during elections. If the government begins regulating mosques and imams, it could disrupt this system, making northern leaders unlikely to support such reforms. Would they willingly give up a tool that has kept them in control for decades? For real change to happen, Nigerians must think critically about the role of religion in society. Blind faith enables exploitation, so citizens should demand accountability from religious leaders. Additionally, civil society and policymakers must push for laws that prevent fraud and extremism without infringing on religious freedom. Most importantly, Nigerians must recognize when religion is being used as a political weapon and resist manipulation. The debate is complex. Should the government intervene to protect citizens from exploitation? Or would regulation lead to accusations of religious suppression? One thing is clear: Nigeria's unchecked religious landscape has allowed corruption and extremism to thrive. Whether Rwanda's model is the answer remains to be seen, but what's certain is that Nigerians must no longer allow religion to be a tool for control. The question now is, will the people demand change, or will the cycle continue? The path forward: how Nigeria can implement effective religious regulation without infringing on faith. If Nigeria is to successfully regulate religious institutions, it must strike a delicate balance, curbing exploitation and extremism while respecting freedom of worship. Here's how it could work. Mandatory registration and licensing of religious centers. Every church, mosque, and spiritual organization should be legally registered with a national regulatory body, similar to Rwanda's Religious Affairs Ministry. This would ensure structural safety, preventing building collapses. Track funding sources to prevent money laundering and fraud, without fake prophets and extremist clerics operating illegally. Financial transparency and anti-fraud measures. Many religious leaders amass wealth through unchecked donations, tithes, and seed faith schemes. To protect followers, Nigeria could require audited financial reports from large religious organizations. Ban manipulative fundraising tactics. For example, if do not donate to the church, you may not be healed or risk curses. Set up whistleblower protections for members who expose fraud. Sermon monitoring to curb extremism. While outright censorship is dangerous, Rwanda's approach of reviewing sermons for hate speech and incitement could be adapted. Nigeria's government could work with moderate religious leaders to establish preaching guidelines. Suspend clerics who promote violence or tribalism. Promote interfaith dialogue to counter radicalization. Education and public awareness. A major reason religious exploitation thrives is lack of critical thinking. The government and civil society should Teach media literacy to help Nigerians identify manipulative preaching. Encourage debates on responsible faith practices. Hold religious leaders accountable through investigative journalism. Political will. Can Nigeria overcome northern resistance? The biggest challenge is northern political elites who benefit from religious control. To counter this, southern and middle belt leaders must push for national reforms. Grassroots movements should demand accountability from both clerics and politicians. International pressure, from bodies like the United Nations or Africa Union, could help if local leaders resist. A call for responsible faith and governance. Nigeria doesn't need to destroy religion, it needs to save it from corruption and extremism. Rwanda's model proves that regulation can work without suppressing faith, but only if Nigerians. Heavy checkmark stop worshipping religious leaders like gods. Heavy checkmark demand transparency from churches and mosques. Heavy checkmark vote out politicians who weaponize faith for power. The choice is clear: continue allowing religion to divide and exploit, or reform it to uplift and unite. What side are you on? Drop your thoughts below, let's debate. Would you support government regulation of churches and mosques? Or is it too risky? Comment your views. And if you haven't subscribed to our channel and liked the video, please do. Thank you and God bless you.